My wife said I choose them after her family demanded she pick sides because I wouldn't give them my life savings for a crypto scam. So I quietly filed for divorce and left while she was at their house. Came back to an empty apartment 3 days later. I walked into my own apartment in Cleveland, Ohio, and froze. For people were sitting on my couch like they owned the place. Lily's parents, her older brother Troy, and her sister Marina. All of them staring at me the way you stare at a stray dog that wandered in from the street. And Lily. She was standing near the window, wringing her hands, eyes darting between them and me like she already knew something horrible was about to happen. "Babe," she said, voice shaking. Everyone needed to talk to us about something important. I didn't even get to take off my jacket before Troy leaned forward like some wannabe mobster. "It's about the investment pool," he said. "And your savings." My stomach dropped. Not this again. Not after everything. But the way they were positioned, the whole family waiting for me like a jury. This wasn't a conversation. This was an ambush. Planned one. Lily's mom had tears already streaming down her face, like she'd rehearsed. Her dad's arms were crossed, all rigid and righteous. And Marina was scrolling on her phone, ready to record the moment I finally came to my senses. They wanted my $92,000 savings, the money I'd built before I ever met Lily. They wanted it for Troy's crypto investment pool. But as I stood there, something felt off. Like this wasn't just them pushing again. Like something deeper, darker, had been whispered around behind my back. Her father finally spoke, voice low and cold. "We need an answer tonight, Eli. Are you with this family or not?" I glanced at Lily, silently begging her to say this was too far. But she didn't. She just whispered, "Just listen. Okay?" Troy said he found a way we can all double our money in months. Double our money? Right. And I was born yesterday. "No," I said. "My savings aren't up for discussion." The room went dead silent. Then her father stepped forward, inches from my face. "Then you're forcing Lily to choose. Us or you." Lily's breath hitched. "Dad." "No," he snapped. "He's been hoarding money that could help the family. If he won't contribute, he's not part of us." I looked at Lily. "Please tell me you didn't know they were going to do this." She didn't answer. That told me everything. "Lily," her dad said harshly, "choose." Her eyes met mine. 1 second. 2. 3. And then she whispered it. I choose them." I didn't yell. Didn't argue. Didn't even blink. "Understood," I said. But the part they didn't know yet, the part I'd find out only hours later, was that this wasn't just about crypto. There was a reason they were pushing so hard. A reason Lily looked so terrified. A reason her family needed money now. Because someone in that room wasn't just desperate. They were in trouble. The kind that drags everyone down with them. And I was about to find out exactly who, and exactly why. Before everything blew up, I honestly thought Lily and I were solid. Not perfect, but stable enough that I never imagined we'd end up standing on opposite sides of a family ultimatum. We'd been married for just under 3 years, living in a small but decent apartment in Cleveland. I worked full-time in logistics, she worked part-time at a boutique. We split bills proportionally. We kept separate accounts. We agreed on boundaries, or I thought we did. Looking back, the red flags were there. I just ignored them because I loved her, or maybe because I didn't want to see what was happening right under my nose. Her family had always been intense. One of those we're all or nothing types. They treated every disagreement like betrayal. And every time we visited, they acted like Lily was still 16 and not a grown woman with her own life. At first, I chalked it up to culture, just a very enmeshed family dynamic. But it slowly morphed into something else. Their favorite line became, "This family is a package deal." And that package always came with strings. It started small. Her mom asking us to help pay for small household repairs. Her dad forgetting his wallet when we were out. Her sister needing help with car payments. Lily always framed it as, "They just need a little support." I didn't mind helping here and there. But everything shifted when Troy, the crypto messiah, entered the picture. He made a bit of money early in the market, and overnight he transformed into some self-proclaimed financial genius. He started talking like he was the only one in the room with a functioning brain. Every holiday, every birthday, every family gathering, he pitched his family investment pool. "Imagine if all of us put in money," he'd say. "We could build generational wealth." But generational wealth was just a fancy way of saying he wanted us to hand over our savings to him. Lily always shut him down in front of me, but I'd catch her later saying things like, "I just want to support them," or, "Maybe we should think about it." I always told her the same thing: "Your family's wants aren't my financial responsibility." She'd look away every time I said it. The worst part? I told her exactly how much I had saved. $92,000. Money from my old job, side gigs, bonuses, and careful budgeting before we'd even met. She said she was proud of me, said she admired my discipline. Then one night, months before the ambush, I overheard something. She was in the bathroom with the door half closed, talking to someone on speaker. I heard her say, "I know how much he has. I just don't know how to convince him." I froze mid-step. Convince me of what? I didn't walk in. I didn't confront her. I wasn't ready to believe she was talking about my savings. But the seed was planted. And then the weird things started happening. Troy sending me random articles about crypto opportunities. Her dad asking vague questions about our long-term financial goals. Marina joking that I should share the wealth. A Lily avoiding questions about her family's finances altogether. And then, about 2 weeks before the ambush, Lily's mood changed entirely. She became restless, anxious, snapping at small things. Waking up in the middle of the night. Checking her phone constantly. She even asked, out of nowhere, how much money I kept liquid at any given time. That was when the pit formed in my stomach. That was when I realized something was happening behind my back. But I didn't know the half of it yet. Because while I was worrying about being pressured into a stupid crypto investment, her family was hiding a very real crisis. A crisis so bad that they weren't just trying to pressure me. They were trying to trap me. And Lily? She was caught in the middle, already drowning, already choosing sides long before the night she said it out loud. Things escalated way faster than I could process. After the bathroom phone call and all the weird hints, I started paying closer attention. Not because I wanted to spy, but because something in Lily's behavior felt off. Like she was carrying around a secret she didn't know how to hold. And then little cracks started showing. One night, I walked into the kitchen and Lily quickly shoved her phone under a dish towel. Not even subtle. I pretended not to notice, but my chest tightened. Later, I heard her in the bedroom with the door closed again, whispering aggressively. I only caught fragments. "He doesn't trust you anymore. We need to do it soon." "I already told you he won't." I stepped closer. The floor creaked. Silence. Then Lily opened the door and nearly jumped out of her skin when she saw me. "Who were you talking to?" I asked. She swallowed. "Just Marina." But her voice had that brittle edge, like glass ready to snap. Over the next week, tension thickened between us. Every conversation ended in frustration. Every dinner felt like I was sitting across from a stranger. She kept defending her family in vague ways. "They just want to help you. Maybe you misjudge them. They care about us." Which only made the feeling in my gut heavier. Then the strange, suspicious stuff started happening. 1. Her dad called me by accident. The voicemail said, "Let me know the number again. He needs to have access for the transfer." I had no idea who he was. 2. Marina texted me out of nowhere. "Just so you know, being selfish doesn't lead to lasting marriages." I hadn't talked to her in months. 3. Troy sent a group text to the entire family, including me. "We all need to be aligned. No more backing out. This is too big of an opportunity." I'd never agreed to anything. Every sign pointed to the same thing. They weren't waiting for me to join some investment pool. They were counting on it. One morning, Lily came into the living room looking pale and shaken. She sat next to me and took my hand. "Eli," she said softly, "if something happened to my family, if they needed us, would you help them?" "Depends on what happened." She looked down. "They're just Going through a lot right now. What kind of a lot? Depressed. She hesitated too long. Just trust me, she said. Please. But trust requires honesty. And she wasn't giving me any. 2 days before the ambush, the tension snapped completely. I came home early from work to grab something I forgot and found Lily sitting at the dining table with Troy. They didn't hear me come in at first. They were bent over my printed account statement that I kept in a folder in my desk drawer. A folder Lily had no reason to open. I froze in the doorway. Troy said, "He can stall all he wants. But if he wants to stay married, he'll have to step up. You just need to push him at the right time." Lily rubbed her forehead. "I'm trying. But he's stubborn. If he says no, they'll turn it on me." Who would? Who were they? What exactly was she afraid of? My hands were shaking as I stepped forward. "What are you doing with my financial documents?" Lily jumped up like she'd touched a live wire. "Eli, it's not what it looks like. It looks like you two are planning something behind my back," I said, staring at the statement on the table. Troy didn't blink. "Calm down, man. We're talking about helping the family. This is what married couples do." "No," I said. "What married couples do is respect boundaries." Troy snorted. "Don't be dramatic. Just listen to the pitch." "No," I snapped. "Get out of my apartment." Lily grabbed my arm. "Can we please talk about this like adults?" "I asked him to leave," I said again. Troy stood, sneering, but walked out. Lily followed him into the hallway to whisper something urgently. I couldn't make out the words, but I didn't miss the fear in her voice. When she came back inside, she looked like she'd been crying. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm just under a lot of pressure." "What kind of pressure?" She hesitated. Then, "I can't tell you." And that was the moment I realized I wasn't fighting over money. I was fighting against something I still didn't understand. Something closer to desperation than greed. But whatever it was, she had already chosen to lie to me instead of confide in me. And when someone chooses secrecy over honesty, they've already made their choice. I didn't know then what they were hiding. Didn't know why they were so frantic. Didn't know the truth behind their sudden investment urgency. Not yet, but I would soon. And the truth? It was worse than money. It was worse than pressure. It was dangerous. The night after I kicked Troy out of my apartment, I hardly slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lily hunched over my bank statement, her face tight with fear, like she was cornered, like she was already drowning in something she refused to name. But nothing prepared me for what I discovered next. 2 days later, the day of the ambush, I got off work early because my supervisor sent everyone home after a power outage. I wasn't supposed to be back for another 3 hours. I didn't text Lily. I figured I'd surprise her, maybe talk calmly, try to get to the bottom of whatever the hell was happening. When I pulled into the lot, Lily's car wasn't there. But her sister Marina's was. So was her dad's truck. Instant red flag. I walked up the stairs as quietly as I could, some instinct telling me to listen before opening the door. And that's when I heard voices. Faint, tense, frantic. I leaned closer. "He'll be home soon," Marina hissed. "We need to make sure he commits today. If he doesn't," Dad said. Lily cut her off. "Stop. You can't just threaten him. He's my husband." Her dad's voice came through, low and furious. "He's your husband, but he doesn't care about this family. If we don't get the money, we lose everything. Do you want us homeless?" "Dad, please," Lily whispered, voice breaking. "I'm trying. Try harder." A pause. Then came Troy's voice, calm in a way that made my skin crawl. "Look, Lily, once Eli transfers the money into the pool, we'll be fine. But if he won't listen to you, then he needs to be pushed. That's why we're all here." My stomach clenched. They weren't planning an intervention. They weren't asking for help. They were planning coercion. But then came the twist, the part that shattered whatever illusion of trust one still had. Lily sniffled. "He'll think I'm betraying him." And Troy replied, "You already did, Lil. You gave us the access codes. You told us his balances. You helped us put the plan together. We just need him to hand it over willingly now so nothing comes back on us. My entire body went numb. Access codes? Balances? She'd given them more than information. She'd given them everything they needed to empty my savings if I'd slipped even once. The blood roared in my ears. Her dad added, "He's stubborn. So if he says no, we're making him choose. You've got to force his hand, just like we talked about." Silence. Then Lily said the one sentence that broke something deep inside me. "I'll make him choose. Just don't blame me if he leaves." Troy snorted. "He won't. He worships you. Just cry a little. Say you need him. He'll fall in line." Her mother's voice rose sharply. "You'd better hope he does. Because if he doesn't give us that money, everything falls apart." That was the moment I realized. They weren't just greedy. They were desperate. Desperate enough to plan, manipulate, ambush, and use Lily as the weapon to get to me. I backed away from the door, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might break through my ribs. They hadn't seen me. They didn't know I knew. Not yet. And standing there, listening to them plan how to corner me, how to pressure me, how to make me choose, I realized something else. This wasn't just about crypto. This was debt. Serious debt. Debt that came with consequences worse than bankruptcy. Something or someone was closing in on her family. I didn't know who, or how much they owed, or why they needed my money so urgently. But what I did know was this. The betrayal started long before they sat on my couch. And by the time I opened that door and faced them, I already knew Lily's choice. I just needed to hear her say it. And she did. "I choose them." But the real twist? That wasn't even the worst betrayal. What came next would make everything, the ambush, the pressure, the lies, look small compared to the truth. When Lily said, "I choose them," part of me shut off. Not the emotional part that had been shutting down for weeks, but the part that kept giving her the benefit of the doubt. The part that still hoped she'd never really betray me. But hearing it out loud, hearing her choose the same people who'd schemed for weeks to drain my life savings, that was the final switch. I didn't yell, didn't plead, didn't try to argue her out of it. I just felt steady, cold, like everything suddenly made sense. Her family kept talking at me, repeating the same lines, the same guilt trips, the same entitlement, until I finally cut through all of it with, "Everyone needs to leave. Now." Her dad puffed out his chest. "Don't talk to us like, my name is the only one on this lease," I said. "Get out." The calmness in my voice must have unnerved him, because for the first time since I'd known the man, he shut up. One by one they shuffled out the door, muttering and glaring. Lily tried tugging on my sleeve. "Eli, don't do this. Don't shut me out. You don't understand." "I understand enough," I said. And I did. I understood she'd lied. I understood she'd given them access to my information. I understood she'd been planning this ambush for weeks. I understood I was done. I walked into our bedroom, closed the door, and pulled out my phone. No shaking hands. No second-guessing. I Googled divorce attorneys. Found one with late evening consultations. Sent an email. My wife conspired with her family to access my separate assets. I need to file immediately. Within 30 minutes, I had a callback. The attorney's voice was sharp and businesslike. "Document everything. Move out before she tries to claim residency. Do not tell her you're filing. And protect your accounts." For the first time that night, I exhaled. This wasn't revenge. This was survival. I left the bedroom to find Lily pacing the living room, eyes red, insisting we work this out, but not once apologizing. Not once admitting what I'd overheard. Not once acknowledging what her family had planned. That told me everything. "I'm leaving for a few days," I said. "Eli, we can talk." No, I meant what I said. She watched me grab my coat with a devastated look that felt practiced, like she'd used it on her family her whole life. But I wasn't playing anymore. That night, in a cheap extended stay rental on the other side of Cleveland, I started planning. Not out of anger, not out of spite, out of clarity. Step 1. Lock down accounts. New passwords. 2FA. Alerts on every login. Step 2. Screenshot every text, every weird message, every financial document they'd touched. Step 3. File for divorce as fast as legally possible. In Ohio, filing strategy mattered, and my attorney wanted to strike before Lily and her family could spin a story. Step 4. Move everything I owned out of the apartment before Lily's family tried to interfere. My attorney was blunt. If her family's desperate, they'll escalate. I believed that. I'd seen how far they'd go. Step 5. Prepare for the fallout. Because people like Lily's family never go quietly. But the part one didn't expect, the part that blindsided me later, was that things weren't just falling apart financially for them. Something much worse was happening behind the scenes. Something that made their desperation dangerous. Something that would explode into the second twist. And the only reason I found out was because, while packing up at 2 a.m., I found something in Lily's nightstand that explained everything. Something that wasn't supposed to be there. Something that changed the entire narrative. And something that meant this wasn't just about money. This was about fear. About lies. About a secret her family was willing to bury anyone to protect. Including me. I was packing at 2 a.m., working in silence so thick it felt like the walls were listening. I'd already boxed my clothes, my tools, my documents. Anything that was mine and mine alone. The apartment felt hollow. Like the life Lily and I had built had evaporated overnight. I was emptying her nightstand only to photograph what belonged to her for documentation when something slid out from the back of the drawer and hit the floor with a soft thud. Plain white envelope. No name. No return address. No stamp. Just an address and a date scribbled at the bottom. I picked it up, opened it, and froze. Inside was a letter. Not handwritten, typed. Formal. Cold. Final notice before legal action. Outstanding balance. $147,300. Failure to remit payment will result in court filings, asset seizures, and criminal proceedings. I kept reading. Lily's father's name was on the first page. But the second page? It listed co-debtors. Her mother, her brother, her sister, and Lily. My stomach dropped. They weren't just in debt. They were in massive, life-ruining debt. Debt that could trigger investigations, garnishments, even charges if fraud was involved. Debt big enough to swallow an entire family whole. And it got worse. Attached to the back was a photocopy of something I didn't expect to see in a million years. A bank transfer request form, partially filled out. The contributing party line had my name typed in, spelled correctly. And next to it, a sticky note in Lily's handwriting. Once he says yes, we add his account. Dad said don't tell him until after. My hands went ice cold. They weren't planning for me to voluntarily join their investment pool. They were planning to funnel my money into their debt scheme the second they got my consent signature. That's why Lily had been so terrified. That's why her family had been cornering her. That's why they were desperate. This wasn't about crypto at all. Crypto was just the cover story. Their entire financial world was collapsing, and they were trying to drag me in as one final lifeline before everything imploded. And then, at the bottom of the debt notice, I saw it. Required minimum payment due by March 12th, the same exact day they ambushed me. They hadn't just randomly chosen that night. This was the deadline. The moment the wolves were at their door. Everything clicked into place. The pressure, the guilt tripping, the manipulation, the ambush. Lily saying I choose them. She didn't mean I love them more. She meant I'm protecting them more. Because they'd roped her into this years before we got married. Because she was legally tied to their debt. Because she was sinking with them. She wasn't choosing them over me. She was choosing the debt, the fear, the disaster they'd dragged her into. She wasn't trying to build a future with me. She was trying to use me as a life raft. But here was the part that hit even harder. She'd known all along that this would destroy us. That's why she cried. That's why she looked sick. That's why she whispered to them, "Don't blame me if he leaves." She knew this plan was unforgivable. She knew I'd walk. She knew she was sacrificing me to save them. She just hoped I'd bend before I broke. But instead, I broke away. And now I understood something chilling. Her family wasn't just desperate. They were dangerous. People who are losing everything are capable of anything. And they weren't done, not even close. Because the moment they realized I'd filed for divorce, they would panic. They would lash out. They would escalate. And they would try to take me down with them. But I wasn't just walking away. I was preparing. Because now I had proof. Real proof. And once the truth came out in court, their desperation would turn into fear. I could feel it in my bones. Something huge was coming. And this time, I wasn't the one backed into a corner. People talk about family pressure like it's emotional, like it comes from expectations or guilt or years of bad communication. What I uncovered wasn't pressure. It was survival mode, the kind that turns people into predators. The deeper my attorney and I dug, the clearer it became. Lily's family wasn't just in debt. They were involved in something illegal. Not cartel level. Not mob level. But fraud level. The kind that can still ruin lives, seize assets, and slap you with years of fines or jail time. Here's how it unfolded. During discovery, my attorney gained access to their financial records. Most families have a few credit cards, maybe a small loan, maybe mortgage debt. Lily's family? They had 9 credit lines opened under multiple names, 2 business loans, and a stack of unexplained transfers leading to a shady investment advisor who was already under investigation. It wasn't just bad money management. It was fraud. All 4 of them had signed onto accounts they weren't supposed to have access to, some in their names, some in names that technically weren't theirs to use. And that wasn't even the darkest part. Her dad had been borrowing identities inside the family, using Lily's personal information years before she ever left home, opening lines of credit behind her back, rolling debt forward, adding new accounts whenever old ones threatened to collapse. Lily wasn't innocent. She wasn't a mastermind, but she wasn't naive either. She knew, not everything, but enough. Enough to know her dad was sinking. Enough to know her brother was flailing. Enough to know she was legally tied to several debts before we married. And she hid it, because if she told me the truth, there was no way in hell I ever would have said, I do. Here's what my attorney explained. If they defaulted, and they were days from default, the court could chase all co-debtors. Meaning Lily. Meaning me if we were seen as financially merged. And the only way they could try to merge us. Get me to commit funds voluntarily. Even one contribution. Even one transfer. Once I put $1 into that family investment pool, they'd argue I entered a community financial agreement. Translation. I'd be on the hook for over $147,000 of their fraudulent mess, and very possibly considered part of the misconduct if it ever led to charges. That's why they panicked when I refused. That's why they staged the ambush. That's why they forced the ultimatum. Not because they wanted to get rich, but because they were drowning. And Lily? She was the one shoved to the edge to push me in. Her betrayal wasn't romantic. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't sentimental. It was practical. She chose the path that saved the most people, her parents, her siblings, and herself. If giving me up, if sacrificing our marriage, kept her family out of court, out of jail, or away from financial ruin. She would do it. She did do it. She wasn't choosing who she loved more. She was choosing which disaster hurt her least. I asked my attorney once, was there ever a version of this where she picked me? She looked at me like I was asking why fire burns. No, she was too deep in with them. She needed your money more than she needed your marriage. That hit harder than anything Lily ever said. A week before the ambush, the advisor they were working with was raided. So their debt, the entire mountain of it, was about to come crashing down on them without the usual stall tactics. They weren't trying to build something. They were trying to escape something. And I was supposed to be their escape route. Their clean slate. Their bailout. Their shield. Just one signature. Just one transfer. Just one moment of weakness. And my life would have been devoured. All along, Lily's choice had nothing to do with loyalty or family unity. It was fear. Desperate, selfish fear. And she let that fear turn me into a sacrifice. After my attorney unraveled the truth behind Lily's family's debt scheme, everything shifted. For the first time since this nightmare started, they were the ones panicking. They were the ones scrambling. They were the ones with everything to lose. And I finally had every card stacked in my favor. My attorney moved fast. She filed motions, attached the debt notice, the half-completed transfer form, the sticky note with Lily's handwriting, and the text showing the ambush was planned. She even included my discovery of them accessing my financial documents without permission. The judge took one look and granted. No contact order, immediate control of the apartment, protection of my premarital assets, a warning to Lily's family for potential financial coercion, everything Lily's family tried to weaponize against me. Emotional pressure, fake complaints, smear campaigns, ended up being proof of their desperation and misconduct. When Lily's attorney saw the evidence, her tone changed overnight. Suddenly we got long, desperate emails. My client wants reconciliation. She was confused and emotional. She wants another chance. No, she wanted access to my money. That ship had sunk the second she whispered, "I choose them." Lily fought tooth and nail to salvage something, anything, but the judge shut down every argument. Final outcome: 50-50 split of only our small joint savings. No spousal support, her family's debt remained theirs alone, and my $92,000 remained untouched, a restraining order extended until divorce finalized. She had 2 weeks to remove her belongings. She came to the apartment with her family on moving day. Of course she did. And tried one last time to play the wounded wife. "You're throwing away everything," she sobbed. "No," I said. "You did that when you planned how to use me." Her brother muttered something about me ruining their lives. I didn't respond. Their lives were ruined long before I entered the picture. I wasn't the one who destroyed them. Their own decisions did. 3 months after the divorce, I heard, through mutual acquaintances, that their fraudulent advisor cut a plea deal and exposed all his clients. Lily's father had to hire a criminal defense attorney. Marina's wages were getting garnished. Troy's crypto genius reputation vaporized when people learned he lost most of the family's money. Lily was working full-time for the first time in years to pay for her share of the debt. She wasn't just living with her parents again. She was living in the fallout she helped create. Her mother reportedly cried to friends, "If she had just convinced him, we wouldn't be in this mess. Yeah. If she had convinced me to sacrifice my future, my savings, my sanity, then they'd be fine." That sentence alone told me everything I ever needed to know. 6 months after the divorce, a handwritten letter slipped through. She apologized. She blamed her father. She blamed fear. She blamed herself. She said she loved me, wanted another chance, wanted to restore what we lost. I shredded it, not out of spite, not out of anger, because there was nothing left to restore. She didn't choose love. She chose survival. And she chose it at my expense. A year later, my world looks nothing like the one they tried to drag me into. Better apartment, better job, quiet life, no chaos, a savings untouched. Still growing, I a dog who thinks I hung the moon, dating slowly. Carefully, I don't wake up wondering what crisis I'll be guilt-tripped into fixing. I don't walk on eggshells worrying about someone else's financial black hole. I don't carry anyone's hidden debt. Not legally, not emotionally. I'm free. Lily once said, "I choose them." And I said, "Understood." Turns out, I understood better than she ever imagined. While her family drowned in the consequences of their own making, I walked away untouched. Not because I fought harder, but because I stopped fighting for them. And honestly, that was the best revenge there ever was. The book is closed. The ending is written, and I'm already living the sequel.